Dr. Woltemade Hartman, thank you for giving me your time this evening for this interview.
Pleasure, my pleasure.
Yeah. So I know you have many experiences in working with people who have experienced grief. And in the upcoming workshop in Australian Institute of Clinical Hypnosis and Psychotherapy, you're presenting a workshop. Would you say a little bit about your specialized techniques of ego state therapy and how you combine it with other modalities?
Well, the topic of the workshop is grief as a resource. Because if you look at the literature over many years, they only looked at grief from the point of view as pathology. Also speaking and talking using concepts like pathological grief, which I for many years did not agree with. I don't think grief can be pathological. Grieving is a very natural process after we have lost someone, or and it could be a person that we lost, it could be an animal that we lost, it could be an experience that we lost, or an opportunity that we lost. You lose different things and you grieve about those things, and it's not necessarily pathological. And there's some theories that say, well, you have to look at 3 months and you have to look at 6 months, and then you determine whether the reaction is pathological grief.
Or it's prolonged.
Prolonged grief.
Yeah.
And I don't agree with that. I think you have to also look at it from a polyvagal perspective. What impact does that moment of losing someone, what impact does it have on the nervous system? Some people get very activated, they're very emotional about this, and some people really go into freeze, and they even dissociate in that moment because it's high impact, it's shock trauma. The realization that someone has just passed away, no matter what actually happened. The moment it happens, it's very intense. You know, there's a saying where they say, oh, this person has lived his life, he was already very old, or she was old, so everybody expected them to die.
Yeah.
But actually, at the moment of impact, no matter whether you're 17 or 70 or 90, it is a traumatic experience for the person that stays behind.
And each person experiences it differently.
Every person experiences it in a very unique way because your nervous system response is unique. And that's why a knowledge of polyvagal theory would be very important, which I will explain in this workshop. And very briefly, but so that you have an understanding of it. And then I will show what happens in the nervous system. What is the reaction of the nervous system after an event like that? And if the person is in freeze, I will show bottom-up techniques, how to reset the autonomic nervous system response. That is when you look at it from a neurobiological perspective. Of course, there's also a psychological perspective. The psychological perspective is that sometimes because of losing someone, you can have a psychological reaction which we call internal fragmentation, where the impact is so high that it creates internal fragmentation in the personality, where ego states or parts of the personality could be dissociated. Of course, that would be a more severe reaction, but it happens. And instead of helping people to realize or to say goodbye to someone, let me say it like that, instead of saying goodbye, we don't want to say goodbye to our loved ones. Over the years, the therapy and the literature changed. And now we say, But how can we keep something of that loved one with us? What can we save within us? That something that we save, how can that stay alive within me? Although I know that person has passed away, but I keep something for me that stays alive about that person. Whether it's the love of that person, I don't think love, if you have loved someone dearly and that one passes away, I don't think that love will die, okay? And the question is, what can you keep with you? You want to keep that person's smile, maybe a gesture, maybe a saying, maybe the person's humor. And what do you want to carry with you about that special person in your life? And in that workshop, I'm actually going to show it.
And in terms of working with parts, sometimes you find an interject through hypnotic work. And then you say you can't eliminate, as you say. You just work with it.
Well, if you want to call it an introject or an internalization, yes, if you love someone dearly and that person passes away, the question is, how can you internalize the love or the humor or the connection with that person so that love or connection can stay alive? And this is what Paul just says. It's about the ventral vagal system, about the social engagement system, about attunement. And when we love someone, there's also attunement. And we don't want to lose that. So we want to keep that with us. And in this method, we really teach people how to work with that internalization, or like some people would say, an introject of the person, the deceased. Okay, which is an amazing method.
And it's really a combination.
And so it's a combination. This workshop is a combination of grief work, if you want to call it like that, resource activation, using introjects or internalizations, also in a systemic way. It's also systems work, and how that can all be combined to let the person also have a resourceful experience after the death of a loved one.
Yeah, great. Thank you for this.
So I'm looking forward that people will join me in this workshop.
Yeah, and I hope this video can give some information about it. Yeah. Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you.